So guys, thanks a lot for coming out tonight. This is great. This is our first event for Machine Learning Society. We have a group of really interesting speakers. Wanted to call out some special thanks to people that have been involved in making this all happen. This is our first event here in New York. So a little bit about me and my organization. So Machine Learning Society was founded in San Diego, and it's now San Diego, New York, and Boston. Soon to be a few other cities as well. We're about 2,000 members across the country. And here in New York, I think we're approaching about 400. So Machine Learning Society is really about networking for people in machine learning, and we do things like Kaggle competitions, we do hikes. You can probably figure out which one's California, which one's New York. So in San Diego, since they've been around since October, we've had quite a few different events. Very exciting events because we're starting to attract a lot of very interesting people in this field, like NVIDIA. We have a couple other really big names that are coming up that we can't quite share yet, but that's very exciting, that's happening very quickly. So the individual that founded this company, or this organization, his name is Tristan Blake. He started here he's originally from New York, and he moved to San Diego and decided that because of a strong bioinformatics community, the computational sciences, it would be a great place to start a machine learning society. So a little bit about me. So we all love good food, and we all have memories, these vivid memories of that delicious first bite of food. For me, I'll share you a little personal story of mine. When I was about 5 years old, I would walk around the property of my childhood home with my mom, and we'd pick wild strawberries. And the thing that I knew about these that really struck me about those strawberries was that the flavor was just so full and just amazing. And fast forward into adulthood, and I don't particularly like strawberries anymore. They are unusually large. They don't have the flavor that I remembered when I was a child. And it kind of made me think, is it possible that we could grow strawberries and other things? There are probably plenty of food out there that we aren't aware of that have changed quite a bit. And with the right kind of technology, we could come back to the type of food that we're used to. So, as a computer guy for most of my life, I'm a strong believer that computers can really help society. And throughout my career and throughout my experience in development, I have been involved in projects that have been helping both companies and society. So it made me think, is it possible that we could see a future with technology that would improve the ability to grow better food? So a couple things about the picture here too. If some of you are not aware of what D-Wave is, D-Wave is very cool. It's a very interesting computer based on quantum computing. I won't bore you with the details of quantum computing, but all I can say is it's a very interesting process. It's still ways to go for the technology, but it's far greater than any computers today. And I put this picture up here because I really wanted to drive from the point that we're really at the beginning of some pretty amazing technology that with the right kind of hardware, the right kind of computing power, and the new techniques in machine learning, we'll be able to do great things. So when you saw my title, you probably thought, this probably isn't a good combination. It may not turn out too well for society. But I can assure you that the view of artificial intelligence and farming is far greater than this, and it will be a good turnout for society. So this is really what the future looks like. The yields are pretty crazy. So using 5 acres equivalent, 2,400 acres. Now, there's a little more to that. It's a 30-story building on a 5-acre footprint. But if you do the math, it turns out to about twice the yield of traditional farming. We can also someday potentially achieve growing without pesticides. In a controlled environment, we are able to to emulate environments that are not indigenous to the area that we live in, which is pretty cool. So, and much more at outer space as well. So, tonight I'm going to take you through a journey with the speakers around technology, growing, design, and space. So, Ryan will talk about the new technologies around computer vision and where we're going with computer vision. Growing, Justin's going to go into growing with AeroFarms. I'm sure that many of you have been very aware of AeroFarms. They've been getting some crazy press, doing some really amazing things. They keep on growing like crazy, no pun intended. And Elaine, she's working with architecture. So, one of the challenges, how do we integrate these new designs and architecture into communities of the future? I envision, for instance, malls. You hear in the news quite a bit that malls are dying and they don't know what to do with the space. Malls would be perfect for indoor growing with the light that a lot of these atriums get. And then lastly, Simon's going to talk about space. And so to the point of reusing old spaces or finding new spaces. And it also is closely tied into the architecture piece as well. So since I'm the organizer of Machine Learning Society, I thought I'd give you a little basic overview of machine learning. Just kidding. I'm not going to go through math with you guys. But I put this slide here because, and this actually really is from papers with machine learning. And for some of you in the audience that are in machine learning, you probably already know some of these formulas. The reason I put this up here is because machine learning still right now is quite a mathematical discipline. In the future, I believe it's not going to be as mathematical because as these machines and algorithms learn, there'll be less and less involvement of hand coding the technology, and it will become more prevalent in society and open for other people to develop interesting aspects. So one of the common things in machine learning is artificial neural networks. And essentially, for those of you that are not in the field, artificial neural networks is loosely analogous to the way our brains work. So when a neuron fires in our brain and it finds a pattern of a pattern and so forth through different neurons in our brain, each neuron is looking for a signal strength from the prior neuron. Same thing happens with machine learning. And right now, there's pretty much 3 different types. Now, there are some others that some people are starting to develop that go beyond this, but these are really the 3 main ways of teaching a computer. So the supervised is you give the machine a picture, and the picture then you work backwards to the input. So you have an output of the picture, you say, this is the picture I want, and you feed it through the other end, and you make adjustments along the way. So it's a very laborious process of tweaking to make sure the computer understands the picture. Unsupervised is really kind of letting the computer learn on its own. And then lastly, reinforcement is a dynamic environment where you're throwing lots of movement at it. This is very much like autonomous cars. Again, this is very, very high level. There's much more to this. So at a high level, this is how basically a convolutional neural network works. So the map up here represents graphically what a neural net would look like. And you have to first train it through these different nodes. So you've got the input and you've got the output. So you want the picture here to recognize me. And through other types of neural networks, you're training them to identify faces, male, female, etc. And then eventually you put my picture in there to identify me. So along the way, it starts out just very basic, like a map of tones and colors, and then you work to edges, and then from edges you start getting more characteristics of the faces. And this is a process that can take sometimes months because you may not have the right computing power, or it's just you're constantly having to tweak the algorithm to make it happen. Okay, so I'm going to show a quick video here. So one thing I'd love to do is to see what's really happening out there. This is a project that Google worked on. It's not a new project. It happened a couple years ago. But it really kind of blows my mind away, because this is an example of where kind of the future is going. So with unsupervised deep learning, you are able to identify let the computer learn things much faster than a human being can learn. And in some cases, one of the complaints has been, how did the computer get to the final output? And oftentimes, that's a difficult question to answer, because there are so many different nodes that have to go through, and it's difficult for a human being to actually check it out. So what this demo is going to be is, they took two-dimensional images, and they let the computer figure out a way to lace them together. So you're taking a picture, 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 and then all the blind spots between the pictures, you're letting the computer figure it out on your own. So it's very much like us. You know, we have a very large blind spot where our optic nerve comes in our eye, and our brains will lace together that blind spot. Well, Google wanted to demonstrate that the computer can do the same thing. Now, in this demo, you'll see there's a little bit of blurring, and the blurring is where the computer is not entirely confident with how to render or draw or paint that object. But you'll see also that where there's choppiness, where there's a person in one picture and a person slightly moved to the next picture, the computer is also trying to estimate the speed of the person walking, and you'll see a car, and they try to estimate the actual speed of the car. So this first one is of a museum, I believe, in France. Now you see up here in the corner, those are the pictures, and this is the computer rendering on its own these still images. And you'll see a little flickering, and that's where the algorithm is trying to learn and extrapolate things that it doesn't quite understand. Same thing. I think this is interesting too, because you'll see when it comes in to the edge, there would be a blind spot on the edge as it's going through the camera. The computer is creating this three-dimensional world. This one, you'll see a lot of fragmentation. You'll see a lot of blurring in this one. So the pillar. But this is, again, the computer working from its imagination. This one, I'll fast forward. This one's kind of the same with the other ones. This one I thought was probably the most interesting. So this is a demonstration of people and cars. Again, still images at the top. You can see the movement in people. And then as we're coming down the hill, you'll see an intersection, and there'll be a car. Now the car is quite blurred, and this was done a couple years ago, so chances are they probably have perfected this, and the computer actually can render the car perfectly and at the right speed of the car coming through the intersection. But the thing that really truly is amazing about this, if you think about this, these are all from disparate pictures, and the computer has to match the tones, they have to match the edges. It's rendering all this on its own. Lastly, so computer vision can be used for a lot of things. Identifying your cat, identifying plants, as you'll hear from Ryan, about whether there's potential pathogens on the plants, watching the plants grow. And then lastly, I also have started doing a little bit of writing. And one of my recent articles, I wrote about CERN and the discovery of potentially multiple dimensions. And that's crazy to imagine that we could actually discover a multiple dimension or other dimensions. But the physicists at CERN believe that there's a particle that's very much like the photon to electromagnetic, that is to gravity, what's called a graviton, and it would seep into a different dimension. If it does seep into a different dimension, you'll see very quickly, like a millionth of a second, that empty space in the picture. So I believe that some of the the new technologies are coming out with machine learning, they could use better, they have better use of it. They've been doing machine learning for quite some time, but they're just starting to get into unsupervised, which is very exciting. This is my information. It's a little small, but thank you guys for coming. We'll kick it out to Ryan now. Ryan?
Thanks, Brian. Also, just raise your hands. Is this a good volume? Can you guys hear back there? Okay, cool. So yeah, Brian and I actually met, was it about like a month or six weeks ago, maybe like 2 months ago, and I was going through hundreds of people in New York, and I'm like, just meeting, I had moved back in January, and I'm like, I want to, meet the most interesting people, and I just like LinkedIn and all these people, and tons and tons and tons, and Brian and I got along very well together. We're like, oh my God, this is going to be a great partnership. So I was like, why don't you head the why don't you kind of help influence what we're doing at Huxley? You're head of the Machine Learning Society. We need this for our plants, and because as it's a beautiful crowd here, because half the people are Machine Learning Society programmer type people, AI type people, computer vision. The other half are foodies, vertical farmers, growers, and these things. And getting into this presentation, what's kind of interesting is, well, we're going to learn a little bit like how it's just not easy, and it's not easy to make money, and how do you do urban farming at scale, and how does this go to the rest of the world? And I think that machine learning and AI and computer vision are going to really help the farmer grow more with less. So to get into that, little backstory, here's a little fun video. So with agritecture, Henry Gordon Smith, he was like, hey, why don't you come to Italy, Milan? Obama's going to speak at the Seeds and Chips conference. I want you to make videos for the conference, and I would love to inspire the audience. So this was about 100,000 people, 3,000 in the audience for Obama speaking. And I'm like, cool, that sounds great. So last week, we were in Milan with the Association for Vertical Farming, and this is the exact video that played before Obama spoke to inspire the audience. And I'll get into why this is so important. Because not only is it important, it's beautiful, So Obama wants to play real-life SimCity, And the timing could be so right. Like in this group of people, we know that there's climate change. We know that there's desertification. We know all these things that are crappy about the world. We see it every second when it dings our pocket, We know everything bad about the world, but we don't know where to go with it, So this was Obama with Sam Cass on stage last week, and amazingly, a retired president that's have to deal with Americans and crazy people and all that. Well, agriculture is the second largest contributor to climate change. We got fossil fuels, but what are the fossil fuels doing? They're basically taking plants grown in China and delivering around the world. So if we can bring our plants locally, then we could combat climate change. Like, this is New York Times literally on Friday, this couldn't be more timely. So the reason why I got in this field, because I used to work at the UN, I used to be a freelancer, I used to brand these big companies, and I was like, I want to use my art to, am I using my art to sell plastic bottles that go in the ocean? Or am I going to use my art to make people diabetic and fat? Am I going to use my art to make people healthy? What am I going to use my art for? You know, I'm an artist, I'm a director, I'm a producer. I worked on a lot of food documentaries. I was tired of talking about it. So at best, if we just stop emitting CO2 from our cars, we go electric tomorrow, 3-foot sea rise, 3 degrees rise. The thing about that is that it's not the plants that can't handle the heat, it's the little bugs that carry the pollen, that propagate the pollen to the other plants. So with climate change, what we're gonna see is these areas of the world that used to grow something, now they can't grow it. And they can't, the little bugs die, and say la vie. But if we don't do anything, we're gonna go up to 12 feet ocean rise, 1 billion people live in the oceans. You know, this is a real thing to solve. And right now, nobody's really doing it. So, the thing is, it's cool, and Brian prefaced this with machine learning, we're pretty smart people, but if you take all of our brains and put it into algorithm, solve a scenario, we're right there, we're 2017. In the next 5 years, computers are gonna be smarter than the smartest person in the room. I'm sorry, whoever that is. Right. So, that's good. When we look at 2040, our world population's gonna tip off and descend, be a little bit chiller. But we add 82 million people surplus per year to the planet. We gotta build 9 new New York cities every year just for population surplus. That's crazy. Could you do that? So, we know why. We gotta basically cut down the Amazon to feed the people that are coming onto this planet, or do hydroponics. Recirculate the water, use 98% less water. Bring 10% of the veggies we eat into our cities, and we can go back to 1980s levels of CO2 output. It's the transportation of veggies, which are mostly water, that we're using oil for. It's ridiculous. So how do we bring it into our cities? How do we bring it local? Real estate prices are expensive, labor is expensive. How do we do this? So this is a mega trend. This is why it's in the news. You got all the crap in the news, and then the light. So, blossoming tech. This is today. Wall Street Journal. Aero farms. Blue Planet. Huxley. We're in the Wall Street Journal today. It's nuts. So if you go through Wall Street Journal, it's like Trump, 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 Trump. The light, right? So we can vertically integrate it like iguanas with Gotham greens. You go to Whole Foods, half your veggies are already grown in New York City or around the area. This is the first vertically integrated vertical farm on top. Not a vertical farm; it's a hydroponic farm, which is equally efficient as vertical farming. More because it's just free light, but this is 98% less water on top of a Whole Foods, and it goes directly downstairs. No ships, no trucks, no CO2. Electric cars are cool, but this is way cooler. 50-mile radius. Cornell University says if we can, maybe it's not vertical farming, but at least do suburban farming. Within a 50-mile radius, we can cut our food carbon output by 2/3. So somebody like Aero Farms, who's in the house, and who's gonna be speaking soon, right after me, is doing exactly that. The world's largest vertical farm is in New Jersey right now. And it's miles away, not even 50 miles away. So that's great. Electric trucks, fuel trucks, whatever you want. Munich, my buddy Max, the Plant Cube. This is just got financed by Ostrom, the biggest lighting company in the world for LEDs. They're financing Max because this is the future of home growing. This is the size of a wine cooler, and you feed 2 people a day, the greens. So, why did I get into this? What am I doing here? For 2 years, I've been trying to crack the code of hydroponic growing. It's a pain in the butt, literally. You fall, you hurt yourself, partners, startups, growing food, hardware, software. Everybody tries everything to see what they can do in this field. And I'm sure everybody in this room has something to contribute, at least to buy it, and at most to apply their intelligence to this. So what we're doing at Huxley is we're monitoring the crops with cameras. We're time-lapsing it from above. Just like Facebook, it can detect your face. We're detecting powdery mildew, downy mildew, aphids. Is there a puddle leak? The AI can pattern match, basically, and detect these things. And we believe that we can save up to 5 to 10% of crops just doing that, which is beautiful. Now, the cool thing comes in that I learned as a farmer is that there's 100 apps out there, but when you're in a farm, you want it to be hands-free. So we're the first company to do augmented reality for farming. You pipe the data to glasses. I call it passive augmentation, where 8 hours a day you're getting these little cues where the bugs are, where these things are in the greenhouse. And with somebody like UPS doing augmented reality for their inventories, they're reducing their labor by 30 to 40%. So, vertical farming, not really making that much money yet. It's getting there. The LEDs are coming down, the hardware, software, all these things. But the biggest piece of the pie, 8 to 20%, is labor. And as these farmers scale, it's really hard to hire people that know how to do all this stuff. It's really complicated. So the analogy is it's like trying to teach somebody to play chess when they've never even played checkers yet. How do you get these hydroponic farmers, and then how do you get more and more as you scale? So if we can crack the labor economics of this, then we can green our cities because it becomes more efficient. So that is kind of the interesting thing. This is what Huxley looks like through the lens of augmented reality. It puts a layer of information on top of the plants. And so as you walk through a vertical system or a greenhouse, it's giving you real-time information. Oh, there's a disease. Oh, this, that. It's going to save a bucket load of time. So that's what we're doing. That's why we're doing it. And come join the journey.
Hello, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about how we at Aero Farms are able to use data to enable us to grow at scale. Oh, what's up? Hello? Those are both? Okay. So today I'm going to be talking about how we use data at Aero Farms to enable us to grow at scale. At Aero Farms, I'm a biological systems engineer, which means I'm working on how we marry our data architecture with our operations, our plant biology, and all of our system designs. Oops, wrong way. At Aero Farms, we grow aeroponically, meaning we grow in modular levels where we mist the roots of our plants with hydroponic nutrient solution. And we grow in a cloth, which is made out of completely recycled plastic. That's recycled for each growing cycle. So no soil, no pesticides, no any sort of harmful ingredients that can go and contribute to the environment. The cloth also serves as a great barrier to allow us to provide an optimal root zone environment as well as a shoot zone environment that allows our plants to grow efficiently and produce enough biomass to help feed our masses at scale and be able to do that at the same kind of cost as a traditional organic farm. Additionally, we are a technology company, so we develop and produce our own LEDs, which helps to significantly reduce our capital expenditure, as well as allow us to fine-tune our spectrum to be able to induce the properties in the plants that we really want to enhance or bring out, as well as eliminate those spectrums that we don't find useful or are not necessarily energy efficient to make and contribute enough to grow plants. At our farms, we are a mission-driven company, so everything we do, we really try to stick to the mantra of being able to grow locally or globally. So what that means is everything we do, we're looking to So everything we do, we're dedicated to being able to produce the most healthy, nutritious, and delicious food for our communities while making a minimal global impact or impact on our environment. This is an image of our 9th vertical farm located in Newark, New Jersey. So to give you a sense of what kind of scale we grow at, each one of these systems is 34 feet tall, 80 feet long, and 5 feet wide. The current facility that we're in has a 65,000 square foot floor space. To give you a sense of what that kind of does, when we were building this facility, I'd be regularly walking half a marathon every day to be monitoring all these systems. So to think about what we have to do to be able to grow at this kind of scale, it's going to take data to be our eyes, and it's going to take technology to be our hands. So when we're building these systems and we're building these farms, what we're really focusing on is how to marry all the different factors that come together to be able to make a vertical farm successful. So on the one hand, that's knowing the biology of what a plant needs and what it wants in order to grow healthy, and adjusting our environment so that the plants are able to exceed those expectations. Additionally, we have to take into consideration how we're moving those plants and how we're operating the facility to be able to produce a consistent quality product day in and day out, which takes a lot of work to design the systems in order to marry the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems that are required to gather data, control the irrigation of our plants, and control the environment of our facility as a whole. So at AeroFarms, how we look at how AI can help us really grow in scale is we grow in 16 days. So from seed to package, that plant has only been growing for 16 days before it's on the store shelves. So we're trying to learn as much as we can every single time those plants are going through that process, meaning that we agglomerate our sensing data, package it into nice bite-sized chunks, and be able to learn and adapt quickly from growth cycle to growth cycle. And behind all this is the data architecture that we've developed in-house. So coming into the space, there was not really a vertical farming platform. And the platforms that are out there for Farm OS don't really apply to the things that we do, and it might not necessarily apply to every aspect of it. So what we try to do is marry every sort of aspect that goes into the business. And in vertical farming, it's a lot of different aspects, whether it's sales and marketing or finance and being able to understand what kind of metrics the farm needs to produce so that we know that we're operating efficiently and we're producing the right amount of vegetables to allow us to be able to scale our business and show that this is a possibility to be able to provide fresh food to our cities. Additionally, it takes into account all the sorts of different sensors that we need to monitor, be able to know that we're growing well, and keep track of the thousands of trays of vegetables that are in the facility at any given time. So, we touched upon it a little bit, but really, in our farm, there's so many different kind of clients that we try to serve. Whether that's the head of R&D trying to tweak a certain parameter to make a spicier arugula, or whether it's someone from the food safety team trying to ensure that we're being as safe as possible and everything's operating as it should be, and there's no risk to our consumers. So being able to monitor our facilities 24/7 and automatically report what the key metrics are that we're trying to monitor has become really powerful for a lot of different clients across the different aspects of our business. So like I said, with vertical farming, we can take a new step forward in terms of food traceability and food security. One of the most highly contaminated vegetables in the world is leafy greens. The highest incidence of foodborne illness is through leafy greens, and we grow ready-to-eat product. So having a well-defined traceability system and the ability to track our seeds from seed to package and be able to report what kind of experiences that plant had throughout its lifetime gives our consumers and our customers the kind of trust that we strive to give, to be able to assure them that this product is ready to eat and completely safe to provide nutrition to people's families. But like I said, we're learning constantly. So all the data that we're gathering each growth cycle, we're able to feed back into the original starting point, whether that's to provide a different distribution to sales or plan for farm futures that we don't know could happen yet. So being able to understand where trade should go and where they should end up in order to make our operations most efficient, as well as our growing environment, and give those plants exactly what they need, put them in the right places, and gather them at the right times is all extremely important, and something that we can do autonomically with feed-forward loops that can feed into these types of simulations. And then AeroFarms is a scaling company, so each farm that we're going to be coming online in the next years is going to be able to feed into that loop even more and provide even more data about what kind of growing conditions are most optimal for different types of plants. Each facility we build, we look at as a laboratory as well. So having the kind of systems in place to be able to capture the data that we think is important and broadcast that to the entire team, to people that know about it and care about it, is really powerful for our ability to grow our business and scale. But behind a lot of this scaling is the development of new applications that enable us to learn even more about our plants, whether that's through vision in terms of making the subjective qualities that make a healthy ruby streak leaf and capture that and be able to learn from every ruby streak that we put into our package is really powerful in terms of being able to continuously track our growth and monitor our quality. But in the end, that all comes down to putting a ruby streak into a package of salad for our families and our kids to eat, and try and produce what looks healthy, what attracts those kids to be able to want to eat lettuce and have a healthy salad, is all of the things that all this data and AI really comes down to, is providing a healthy salad for people at night and to families across many different backgrounds and locations and really anywhere in the world is what we at AeroFarms are trying to accomplish. We sell under the Dream Greens brand under many different retailers, whether it's Whole Foods, ShopRite, Fresh Direct, or local facilities. So we try to enable the larger communities as a whole to be able to have access to fresh, nutritious food. Like Ryan was saying, we have enjoyed some great press, and we hope that we can extend that to the greater vertical farming community, because we're all living in the same world, all drinking from the same pot of water. So hopefully we can all save it together. Finally, we're expanding. We're trying to bring food to the whole world, no matter how much water you really have available. And these map represents dots of cities that have over 1 million people in them. So being able to bring food to those cities rather than sending it halfway across the country, and understanding the carbon impact that has, these are our opportunities to provide change to the world and reduce our carbon footprint. And finally, we are expanding and we are growing. We have many career opportunities available. So if anybody has interest in talking more about what we do or what they can potentially bring to our company, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I'm a designer at Agritexture and Blue Planet, and I'm going to be talking a bit about agriculture and AI. So in the background here is Farmed Here, a vertical farming operation that actually recently closed earlier this year in Chicago. So as you can see, there are actually a lot of obstacles in vertical farming. It's not easy, and it's not always profitable, and it doesn't always work out. There was recently a panel on this at a conference we hosted, Atlanta. The panel was called An Examination of Shuttered Vertical Farms. If you're interested in it, check it out. It's really fascinating on agritexture.com. So what is agritexture? Does someone in the audience want to take a guess? No one? Yeah, you. Exactly. That is exactly correct. It is agriculture plus architecture. So at Agritexture, we try and envision the future, and we kind of idealize all of these really futuristic renderings, but we realize they're not necessarily always realistic. Is this volume good, by the way? Yeah? Okay. So we try and marry this with the more realistic version of vertical farming. So that's what we do at Blue Planet. We think about, okay, what are the design requirements and what are the operations behind it? We try and figure out, okay, what do you want to grow? For that, we need market research. We need to figure out consumer demand. What do people want to eat? Who's your demographic? Who's going to buy your produce? Based on that, we can figure out, okay, what are the crops we want to grow? That is going to, in turn, determine the types of grow systems you're going to use, which is also affected by your building, your energy requirements, where you're located in the city. Then we think about operations. Okay, how do we optimize labor? How do we make it as efficient as possible? What is the CapEx? What is the OpEx? So you can see a lot of these things start to pile up. This is actually Square Roots. Shout out to Square Roots. Their produce is great here. A couple of their entrepreneurs are here. So this is one of our clients. They are growing in, it's an urban farming accelerator. So it's 10 entrepreneurs. Each of them has a shipping container. And essentially what Square Roots does is they jumpstart these entrepreneurs' knowledge. They learn how to grow food and sell food in the city. And this is all hydroponics. Okay, so like I said, it's really exciting because it's all happening right now in New York City. And so we have an entire spectrum of urban ag, all the way from low tech to high tech. So on the low tech side, we've got Battery Park, a community soil-based farm. Then we've got Brooklyn Grange, commercial rooftop engineered soil, followed by Harlem Grown, a really awesome nonprofit community garden that does hybrids, so both soil and soilless growing methods. Then we've got our own Sky Vegetables, which is a commercial rooftop hydroponic farm on a LEED Platinum building. And then we have, all the way on the high-tech end, Air Farms, which you just heard about, a commercial vertical aeroponic operation. So this brings us to the idea of, okay, how can we actually use artificial intelligence to optimize urban agriculture? So one way is we can identify plant diseases earlier and with more accuracy, which is something that Huxley is working on. We can reduce crop loss. We can optimize yields. We can figure out, okay, is the amount we're producing really the amount that is in demand, and reduce post-harvest wastage. So all of this is something called controlled environment agriculture, right? CEA. So what that means is you can control all of these different things, and there's so many different variables. You can control some or all of these things. You can control light, nutrients, temperature, humidity, CO2. Another thing about urban agriculture is that labor is almost always your highest operating cost. And AI has a huge role to play in reducing labor and making it more efficient. 2, in actually getting this new generation of people, getting young people to actually be interested in urban farming, and to make the learning curve for entering this industry lower. So this is actually, this is Grandpa Dome in Japan. They have a really amazing design where it's actually, it's a giant circle, and the workers sit at the center of this circle, and the seedlings are transplanted at the center, so very efficient in terms of labor, and the plants actually move radially outwards as they grow, and when they reach the outside of the circle, they're ready for harvest. So we have the 3 V's of big data, right? We've got velocity. So to kind of frame your thinking about AI and big data in the context of urban agriculture, let's think about velocity. So how quickly are you gathering data? How quickly are you interpreting that and optimizing it? Optimizing based on that data. Well, it actually turns out to be quite hard because these are living creatures. Plants take a while to grow. Given, yes, a head of lettuce will take 4 weeks to grow in a hydroponic system, which is a lot faster than in soil. But all my friends who came from a tech background and now work in urban ag say, rapid prototyping is pretty hard when you need to follow a 4-week cycle of a plant. You've got volume. So if you're working in a commercial farming operation, and given the amount of plants in that operation and all of the different variables you're measuring, the amount of data you have is huge. And you've got variety. So you've got a huge variety of data here, right? You've got your environmental factors, which we talked about earlier. You've got light, humidity, all of those things that you get within controlled environment agriculture. You've got plant health, things like taste, nutrient density, color. You've got labor. What is the most time-consuming task that your workers are spending time on? How can we increase efficiencies? And then you've got your market. Again, who are you selling to? Who's buying your produce? And where are they buying it? So I want to close with these last 2 questions, and hope you think about them. They're, how do we normalize data, and how do we standardize it from automation? So if you think about it, there's a huge potential to use AI and data in urban ag, but the person who's receiving your data and using that is usually not someone who's trained in data science. It's usually your farmer. It's usually your grower. How do we think about the user when we're creating these systems and these products to make it easy for them and effective for them? In addition, what business models promote data sharing? So this is the Plus Farm. It's one of my projects at work. It's our open source modular hydroponic farm. We're planning on releasing it as a website where you can go on and input your user needs, like your budget, how much space you have, what crops you want to grow. And you'll get your farm design and get instructions on how to build it, how to maintain it, as well as educational resources. So when we're thinking about the technology, we also have to think about the business model behind it. I know lots of you have green thumbs out there, and you just don't know it yet, so I hope you feel inspired to discover that. Thanks.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Earth. No, actually, let me start off with a story. I like to start off with a story of the king and his 3 daughters. This king was growing old and weary, and he had to find someone to take over his kingdom. So he brought his daughters together, and he gave them each a handful of seeds. He said, in 4 years, I will come back to each of you, and whoever's taking care of these seeds the best will be able to take care of the kingdom. The seasons pass, the full moons pass, the winters are brutal, the summers are hot. 4 years pass, and the daughters are brought back together to the king. The first daughter, she'd actually thrown away the seeds and bought new seeds that day before, and presented them to the king. Look, they're exactly the same as you left them. Isn't this incredible? The king's like, all right. Second daughter. I actually ate the seeds and they gave me superhero powers, and now I feel like I'm capable of looking after everybody. King's not quite impressed yet. Third daughter. Third daughter grabs the king's hand, takes him for a walk, and then she shows him this field full of corn. She'd spent the 4 years placing those seeds, planting those seeds, and growing them. And each crop that grew a larger and larger and larger field. I guess you get where I'm going with this analogy. The speakers, myself and the speakers, think of us as the kings, and we're giving you some seeds today. And I would like you all to go away and have a think about what you choose to do with these seeds. Throw them away, eat them, give you superpowers, or start to plant them. One of the seeds that I would like to give you today is a question that my organization and I ask quite a lot. And it's one that inspires us to kind of get up in the morning. But what if food was growing on every city block? And we already know the impact of this. The impact is if 10% of the food was growing, we go back to the 1980s, which is huge. Some of the climate change we're feeling right now is from what we were doing back in the 80s. So I can't imagine what we're going to be feeling when, the Earth catches up to us today. But anyway, what I can offer you is a story about the past as well. So Victory Gardens in the 1940s, while the world was in great despair, war, depression, this country actually brought up victory farms, and victory farms fed 40% of the nation. 40% of the nation. This was around the world as well. So looking forward, I think we need to rethink the way that we're looking at things. And to give you a sense of the size of the opportunity, all of those lights is a city worth growing. So now is the time to get involved. Now is the time of the rise of the urban farmer. And I'm excited to see how many of you will actually get involved. So yeah, just rethink the way we're going to approach this. One of my favorite quotes, and also a way of looking at the world, is through the eyes of Buckminster Fuller. So this is kind of where I started. My humble beginnings were on this particular plot on the waterfront in Williamsburg. We managed to convert a construction site temporarily, albeit, into a community farm. It took a very diverse network of individuals to make it happen. And just like we have today, we have a diverse network of individuals that are going to take it forward. Some of the outcomes of that were lots of dancing and some very good food. Some of the other projects that are kind of popping up around the world at the moment, this is one that Amazon's building out in Seattle at the moment. In fact, they just planted their first tree last week. So that, big sponsors and big corporate sponsors are starting to get involved in this space. This is a proposed design for California, and not only does this grow food, it actually cleans water, desalinates water as well. This is a project that's coming out of Denmark. It's an entire city. It's been kind of sold as the Silicon Valley of urban agriculture, if you will. This is a German setup. We saw what Gotham Greens was able to do with Whole Foods, and this is a smaller version in farm out of Germany. Another kind of approach from France, which is in development. This is an office in Japan. So they actually grow 200 different varieties of plants in their office building. And they like to say that it's 2 floors from farm to table. So that's quite interesting. And down under, we like to grow mushrooms underground. So this is a very big underground mushroom farm. One of the projects that we're working on at this stage is we actually went back to the 1960s and hired some engineers from Airstream, and we're building out an Airstream urban agriculture lab. So we're going to have a little mushroom farm, a little algae farm on the outside, a little greenhouse, aquaponics, insect farm. So it showcases a whole variety of agriculture. And then we're going to bus it around to all of the schools in New York City to not only teach the kids, but also open up the conversation with the schools that we need more space to grow. Because that's the one thing that is also restricting this industry, other than the AI and the technology and the cost of labor, actually access to the space to grow. Whoop. So, become a farmer, become a farmhand. I look forward to seeing what happens in the next 4 years and where these seeds may have taken you guys. Thank you very much for coming.
Okay, guys, so what do you think? Pretty cool. So, again, I wanted to reinforce with the group tonight. A big part of you are in the farming community, and a big part of you are part of the machine learning community. As part of the machine learning community, this was all about rethinking how we can use machine learning. A lot of us are doing Kaggle competitions, and we get exposure to some of the cool projects that come along, whether it be Google, or there's a new one about tracking the deforestation of the Amazon. But I really think this is a really important thing for our society. This is something that can really optimize and bring back the quality of food, bring back those strawberries. I'd love to have those strawberries again. But anyways, guys, I really wanted to thank you for coming out. I'm very excited to see the turnout and the excitement. There'll be future Machine Learning Society events. We have a couple that we're planning. I can't really disclose the topic quite yet because I'm working on closing a couple deals with some interesting people. But thank you. And I want to make one call out to is Ricky. Yes. So Ricky's doing a meetup or an event next week, AgTech X, right?
Launch party.
Yeah, launch party on Wednesday. If you want to learn more about this community, great opportunity to get involved. I think that all of us can get involved. And I think that, with Ryan's talk, the thing that's interesting about this, and you heard over and over again that this technology can bring down employment costs and all the different efficiencies. I think we all are fearful. It's been in the news quite a bit. The computer's going to take over our jobs. They're going to take over our jobs. I'm a strong believer that our jobs will convert into different types of roles. I think there was a quote a long time ago that talked about horse-drawn buggies and buses and trains. They were fearful that everybody would be out of business with the buggies. But really what happened was they just learned a new skill. And so this is really about learning new skills. And this efficiency in growing that Ryan's talking about is right now, one of the challenges is you have to be, a very skilled individual to be part of these farms because it's very precise. There's quite a bit of data involved. You have to understand the plants. You've got to understand the growing patterns. But with augmented reality, you put a glass on, and everything is right in front of you. It tells you what to do. And today, Ryan was actually telling me about something I thought was really interesting. He was saying, some of the challenges of, people coming across borders into different countries. Oftentimes, there's a language barrier, and they're right away taking out of the potential of the workforce. But with augmented reality, you could have their native language on one side and the new language on the other side. And everything would be translated in their native language and the other language as they're going through. So they are learning the language and they're also becoming experts at growing. So, this is just one of many examples of where technology will get. So for those of us in the audience that are technical oriented, this is about rethinking the way that we use data and we use computer science. So again, thank you guys.